right. We are back. Crystal, I think it's my echo that I'm hearing in your headset. Maybe it's you through me back into your headset that I'm hearing the echo of. Either way, I will survive. Good Monday. Good day. I almost said good morning. It's not morning. Brenda, I haven't said good morning in a long time. I almost made it. Thank you for being with us today. As we always do, we would love to start our podcast with a shout out to our top sponsors, and especially FPEA, who we have with us today. We have a special guest. We haven't revealed them yet. Everybody's still looking at the thank you for joining us screen, so don't spoil anything. Dun, dun, dun. But we're excited to have everybody on this call that we have with us today. In fact, we had a couple of extras join last minute, so I had to throw out our overlay. It'll just be us, just us folks chatting. But we are very thankful to have FPEA as a sponsor with us, and we are very excited that their convention is right around the corner coming up, and we look forward to seeing so many faces that we know all the way across Florida are going to be there. Faces that we haven't been able to see, but we've talked to online. Legislative session was hot and heavy and intense, and we can't wait to kind of meet up with some of you who were there with us through all of that and say hi. Without further ado, let us go ahead and say hi to our I had my soundboard up, to our panel. Good morning. Good day. We have left to right, we have Dina Fox in the top left corner, and she is with us from Class Source of Tampa. She's also one of our new members to our board, so thank you for being with us. Dina, Crystal, my wife, community manager. She's always with us. She's always with me. Thank you. And then we have Suzanne from FPEA, President, El Presidente. Thank you for being with us. And then bottom left, we have Brenda Dickinson. I think everybody knows her who's on our podcast. And then, of course, me, bottom right corner. Welcome to today's podcast. How is everybody?
Doing great. Doing great.
Good. Well, we're excited. FPEA is right around the corner, and I think a lot of people already know what FPEA is, but I've been surprised that I have ventured. We just hit a homeschool festival in the Panhandle, and there were like 1,000 people there, and there's so many new people to homeschooling, and so many people just had no clue who anybody was, and I was like, wow. It's impressive because how many years has HEF and FPEA been around?
Yeah.
Many decades.
FPEA has been around for 40, and we're about to have our 36th convention of the sorts. So yeah,
and yet still people are coming out and they don't know. So I kind of want to start back a little bit instead of jumping in at the end, where I know we'll have questions about the convention and what's coming up. We'll get into those. But before we get there, let's back up a little bit. Suzanne, are you a homeschool parent?
I am a homeschool parent, yes.
I thought that was the answer by default, but I just wanted to get it out. Why did you choose to homeschool?
Well, to be completely transparent, before I was homeschooling for 13 years, I taught in public and private classrooms. And I reached a place where with my own one daughter in particular who struggled with test anxiety, it became apparent to me that this, we may need to look at some other options for our family. But I was introduced to the idea of homeschooling, honestly, by my younger sister, who was deciding to homeschool my nephew, who is like a son to me. And as the professional educator, I thought that I really needed to help her out and to help her understand that this was not probably the best scenario. Okay. And so she invited me to go to this convention in Orlando. And I was a little bit concerned that it would be something that I was afraid of, but I agreed. And it literally only took me walking into the vendor hall at FPEA the first time to, number one, be overwhelmed completely with what was available for homeschool families, and to be utterly frustrated that as a teacher, I'd only ever been given like 2 or 3 options for a curriculum to teach history. And they had so many out there. So I was won over very quickly. I spent a lot of time looking and evaluating. I'd been a curriculum writer, so I was evaluating, is this good stuff? And I listened to some speakers, and I walked away with curriculum in hand to take back to my classroom and use, because I didn't start teaching at home immediately. But over the course of the next couple of years, I ended up leaving the classroom and coming home to home educate my children. So
that is such an exciting start and such an antagonistic start. I love the flip in that. That's great. It's funny though, because I've heard that a lot lately. I've even seen a lot of articles. Business Insider had an article recently where there was an educator of like 20 years, and she was talking about why she was leaving the classroom and in favor of all the options and freedoms, like all the things that you just mentioned.
Right.
And I love that. I love that piece where you're like, oh, I thought I had a handle on all of it, and then my world opened up, right? Like it just exploded open.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think that's been a lot of our experiences when visiting the FPEA convention. Dina, you've spoken about that before when you went to convention. Do you want to go back and share some of that?
Oh, well, as a brand new, well, I'd homeschooled a year already by the time I went to my first convention. Or if you want to go old school, I homeschooled since birth because I taught them how to sit up and talk. But I remember walking in, Suzanne, do you remember the first time you walked in, how overwhelming it was? Like you just look around and you're like, I can't do all of this. Like every booth is there's so much, and it's probably twice the size it was back then, at least.
Yeah.
So fair warning, when you walk in for the first time, breathe in, breathe out. Do this all, you will find what's right for you. But I remember walking in and being just completely overwhelmed and thinking, wow, there's so much here. How do I choose what it is? And within a couple of years, I was swimming in convention waters a little better, and found not only great inspiration and talks that held my hands up, like Aaron helped Moses. I was being helped by these speakers who were ahead of me in the journey or had a perspective that my mind needed to shift into. And then that's where I felt the real and present calling to start what is now ClassSource.
Wow.
After leaving some workshops and going, there's not everything we need isn't together in the Tampa area. We're having to run everywhere or do without some of the support we needed. And so I remember it was Gaylord Palms. It was in front of Osceola. I remember being next to the women's bathroom and all of a sudden knowing that I knew that I was going to do this and being scared to death. But walking out with courage and texting some of my cohort of friends and saying, so we're going to do a thing.
Nice. Oh, that's powerful.
Our 20th year now, and it's really thanks to FPEA's convention.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. So Suzanne, from homeschooling parent to FPEA president. Why? What
was wrong with it?
You could do anything. You could do anything. Why?
Well, like I mentioned, I was in the education spectrum there, and I always needed to do more. So I was the department head. I would write curriculum. I would do the things. And when I started homeschooling, some of that kind of shut down for me. I was active in my church still, but not anything in the local community. So I did get connected to a local homeschool group, and in order to be a member of that group, you had to join FPEA. And I had been to the conventions again, and I was just looking on the website and recognized that they needed someone in my area to be one of their district directors. That was the name of that at that point in time. And so I thought, well, that can't be too challenging. So I'll just see how I can help. So I interviewed for that and got, connected there. And in a couple of years, there were a lot of changes on our FPA board that happened, and I landed the chairman of the board position. And again, never thought like this would be where I was at all. But I think that happens sometimes. It's not what you think you want to do. It's just where you end up. Okay.
Yes. I understand that fully, because that was pretty much how I ended up carrying the torch for Brenda.
There
Exactly.
you go.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
yeah, that resonates with me. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Through the pandemic, a lot of new families have started homeschooling, like a lot. It has nearly doubled in 2 years, and it's still growing. And a lot of the legislators are trying to make sure that the funding follows that, and that we open up more options for all the different varieties of paths parents can direct their children into. What are some of the takeaways or lessons that you've learned from kind of watching this happen or being a part of this through FPEA?
Yeah, you mean with regards to the pandemic specifically?
Yeah, or like, there's new families that are jumping in, and like, what would you maybe say to them?
So I think that for me, I was a very, we would call it an eclectic homeschooler. Okay. I am not an in the box person at all. I don't fit that mold well. And so I was always trying to do things different. And, I would use phrases like, my kids are going to really pursue their interests. And everybody was like, oh, no, you're unschooling. And, it was like, oh, no. Right. So I did a little bit of everything. I mean, my kids had classical, they had a bit of everything, but mostly it was customized for them. And I think that that has helped me a lot to talk to people who it was probably a little bit more intimidating to talk to the traditional old school homeschoolers for me than the ones who are new and trying to step out and figure out what to do, because there are so many different ways to customize your education to make it, successful for your student, your child, so that they can find success, that they can feel encouraged in their abilities and opportunities. So I think that the experience we had in 2020 and thereafter with what has happened to homeschooling, it gives us an opportunity to really show that to everyone. So there's not just one way to do this and get it right. And I think that instead of being more segmented now, I think that we have people who are more fluid, and work together in different types of, methods and approaches to homeschooling than ever before.
I can definitely resonate with that as well. I know that when Brenda and I have been walking the Capitol and talking with legislators, they don't always see homeschooling the way homeschoolers see it. They see it like public school at home. It's like this one thing, like a one-trick pony. They know what public school is, and then you are at home. So they think that it's public school at home. And I love hearing what you're saying about the eclectic approach and borrowing from classical and mixing, because that's ultimately it, right? It's the parent's freedom to direct and push. And I think that's why we have so much in common between HEF and FPEA, because that's both kind of our heart song, where we start from, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What I love to say to families is, yes, you can. They say, can I? And I just go, yes, you can. Before I even know the details.
That's it. That's true.
So FPEA has been around a while, and you have a huge reputation. I keep seeing these. I know we talked about this on the phone, so
Yeah.
I want to give you a chance to just say it out loud so everybody can hear it. But I was like, Suzanne, I keep getting these emails from
Hmm.
people who are trying to sell me FPEA subscriber lists or
Yes.
attendees lists, and I
Every year.
keep getting
Yes.
emails of like, oh, FPA subscribers get this discount, and it makes it look like you're partnering with other programs or partnering with other businesses or promoting them. Um, say clear the air. Say it for
Yeah.
everybody. Like, do
Clear
we
the air.
sell our information?
We don't sell our information. No, yeah, we don't sell our email list. And as long as I've been around, there have been people who've tried to scam others into believing we do. And so typically for us, like with our vendors, they get hit pretty heavy with that.
Yeah.
And the people who are going to, be present in our exhibit hall. And we will typically at that point, as soon as we hear about it, start sending out an email saying, reaffirming we don't sell the list. This is not us. And,
Yeah.
Thankfully, I think more people have been saved from it than not, but a couple have ventured out there and we've heard not such good
That's
responses.
painful.
Yeah.
That's painful. So the marketing company that I work with,
Mhm.
we do list buying, and it can be pricey
Yeah.
depending on how you target and stuff. So I can only imagine if people are getting scammed, what they're getting scammed for.
Oh, yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be harsh, but it's
Definitely.
good to know that y'all aren't selling our information. I think that some people might see those and never ask or don't know, and so I wanted to give
Oh,
you a
yeah.
chance to say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dina, did you have any questions, or Crystal or Brenda, that you want to roll to before I keep going through mine?
Regarding the lists or the
Oh
emails
no, just in general.
in general.
Hmm.
Well, I think your list is covering everything for me.
Fair enough. We do have Dawn watching from Mulberry, Florida, and Julie pipes in and says, "So blessed to have wonderful leaders in the homeschool community." And Brevard Homeschool Evaluations has said, "Thank you for the continued commitment to educating, informing, and advocating for homeschoolers in all of Florida." Awesome. Speaking of educating
Mhm.
homeschoolers in Florida, are you waiting to make your special announcement at the convention, or did you want to drop a hint now?
Oh, we can drop a full-on hint right now.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
So, yeah, after years, we started, I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I really wanted to start a curriculum that would include a good Florida history curriculum
Mhm.
for our members. And so we worked on that a little bit. History is definitely my track. And so I was like, this is an easy place to work. I've written curriculum. So we did some, made it available as a membership benefit. And I was really waiting for the day that I could find somebody that could come along and help me bring that to the next level. So this year at convention, we are launching our curriculum. It is a
Hey.
bundle-based type of curriculum for families to use with multiple ages. It'll be a monthly subscription for them, or of
Ooh.
course you can purchase it by the year. But we're super excited about it, and we've got like a 3-year plan for the content, and like I just can't wait to get to some of the content. It's going to be good.
Yeah, yeah.
But we'll have
Okay.
samples of that printed. It's all going to be served digitally, but we'll have some samples of that printed so people can get a look at it and get a feel for it. So I'm
That's
excited about
exciting.
that. Yeah.
Is it
I'm sorry.
sorry?
Florida history?
It is not just Florida history. Thank you for letting me clarify that. It is going to be a mixture of, we'll have some Florida history, and especially as it relates to the more national level, like why St. Augustine is an important, national landmark as well as Florida history. But we also have bundles that focus on things like some marine biology elements. We have one that focuses on frogs and toads. And so there's just a whole list of, different things that we're going to be covering in the content. And at convention, you'll actually be able to see the list for the first year and what the content will cover. So
Oh,
Awesome.
very cool.
it's fun.
Very cool. I was actually going to ask that question, Dina, so I'm
Yeah.
glad you did. I'm glad you did. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like we're related or something.
You're an educator at heart, aren't you?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome. Dina, were you about to ask something?
No, I just love curriculum so much. I'm sitting here going, what ages? And
Yeah. We want to know.
Oh,
Well, I guess if we're there, we'll all be able to grab it
You'll
and
be
take a
able
look
to
at it.
see. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can say
That's
that
cool.
much. Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited about that, and I'm very interested in seeing where that goes. It kind of leads me to the next question, which is FPEA's convention is very widely known, but what beyond the convention is FPEA looking to do or looking to become known for? Obviously, you've answered that with the curriculum, but outside of the curriculum and the convention, what is the footprint you're looking to leave behind? Or you're not going to do this forever, so you're going to pass a torch. You're going to pass a torch at some point.
Yeah. So in a community as large as ours, it's sometimes hard to feel the community, and so I like the fact that forever, for me, going to the FPA convention had a feeling of almost like a big family reunion every year. And I know that sounds crazy because it's large, but you do go there and you do see the same people and you connect. And, I made friends and connections with people there before I was even serving on the board. And I think that that's true for everybody who attends. So it's kind of like once you're there, you're in, but I felt the need for us not to only get together once a year. And so part of what I have really pursued and we've worked toward in the last 10 years and moving forward is opportunities for us to get together and do those smaller events with a smaller group of people where we are getting there together and we're building more community and more connection with one another, and just seeing that learning can happen wherever we are with whomever we've connected with. It doesn't have to be, one place. All of our events are educational, so it is a good way to get away and also do something with your kids where they're learning. We've done bioluminescent kayaking is very popular with our marine biologists to help explain it all. We've gone to the Keys and explored all the history and wildlife and everything that you can explore there, scuba diving, snorkeling, so a lot of fun opportunities to get together. But we do something now almost 9 months out of the year. So
that's awesome.
I saw you went on a cruise.
We do have a cruise, and that's a lot of fun too. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice.
So,
that kind of makes me think of something that we have recently started out of the legislation work and the lobbying work that we were doing recently. We've found that disconnect between what legislators think homeschooling is and what it actually is to be a big gap. And we put together a project called Tell Your Story, and it's on flhef.org/tell your story. And what we're asking parents to do is 30 seconds to 60 seconds, make video of what does home educating look like for you? Again, like, why do you do it? What does it look like for you? Maybe like, most importantly, what's the impact? Like, what have you seen that do? And just samples of things like what you were talking about, those seeing how the world is their classroom and capturing some of those moments on video with their testimony. And then we have a link where they can just drop that video to us so that we can get it curated up. And we would love to see video from some of y'all's events make it to there with some of the parents. So I'll send you a link to that where
that's a great that's a great opportunity though to share people's experiences. I think that that most of our experiences and stories, we have commonalities, right? But the impact is different for everyone. And I think that the impact is where, you really can feel why it matters so much, why it's worth, Brenda and Craig starting Home Education Foundation so many years ago, why it's worth us all continuing to look at this and say we need to keep this freedom as free as we can and give people, the opportunity. And I think that the impact is why we do what we do. So it's a great great thing you're doing there. So.
And the bucket doesn't run dry either. Like you were talking about your journey
Mm-mm, yeah.
through, I tried this, we tried classical, we did this, we did that. People can resubmit their
Mhm.
videos as many times as they want. We're trying this year.
Yeah.
Here's what happened. Here's what's this. Like it can be ongoing and evolving because that's the way we're free to do it. And that's what it looks like.
Yeah. And that's the way life is, right? Life is
Yes.
evolving and
Yes.
education is evolving,
Yeah.
right? So.
Yes. Absolutely. Okay, so how can parents, students, stay involved with FPEA and support homeschooling throughout Florida?
Yeah, so we have a lot of really great opportunities to get connected, like I said, with events. Those are geared towards parents and students. A few years ago, really another passion of mine is equipping younger students or our students as we raise them to actually become leaders,
Mm,
because there is a point, like you said, at which I'm not doing this forever and somebody else is going to have to do that, right? And
right.
so I think that equipping students became a passion of mine. So we started doing a leadership summit a few years ago along with our adults. We started doing a team, and it's been interesting to see how that has grown. And
Mm,
we have a lot of opportunities coming up in this year for people to do some internships with FPEA and
cool.
learn a little bit more about what that's like to work with FPA, do FPA, and to be involved. And we have volunteers every year. I have students and adults who volunteer at our convention. For being the largest convention, it's really kind of funny. We did a meme that we didn't share the other day at the office. So all of you know Sharon and you know me, and
Hmm.
we had another state convention that was posting on social media their convention team, and it literally looked like 30 or 40 people that were there doing that. And we did this little meme with the two of us, like theirs and ours. And it's
Yeah.
amazing how slim a team we do actually function on to run the convention. I
Yeah.
personally believe smaller keeps it better a lot of the time, because we have people, but those people who volunteer have come in and they have volunteered, they
Mm,
have learned what needs to be done, and they help us run the largest homeschool convention in the United States, with a
yeah.
very small team. But those volunteers are important to us. So I think
That's
encouraging
awesome.
volunteering for sure.
So how can someone connect with you to do that? Do they email you directly? Go through the website? Is there a
Yeah,
specific
actually,
point of
if you
contact?
sign up to do convention, there's an opportunity for you to volunteer. And we've had
Mm,
people sign up, everybody in their family, just the mom, just the dad, whatever. Um, Other people reach out to me and connect with me personally for special projects and things of that nature. And then anything else that we do, like in the way of internships or anything like that, we will post that, so people will have an opportunity on social media to see that. A
fantastic. It sounds like your plate is full. I think we
little
lost Brendan. Oh
bit.
no.
Don't want an empty one.
Have you gotten the volunteers that you're needing right now, Suzanne, or you still need more volunteers?
I think this year we probably could still use a few volunteers for the convention itself. We always have a lot going on, but the numbers for membership and attendance have been higher this year. And so we're just kind of thinking, okay, let's bring a few more people alongside of us to do this.
Mm.
So.
Are there any specific vendors or speakers that you want to kind of give note to? I know we're running short. We're not really
Mm,
running short on time. We can keep going, but I want to be mindful that, I want to
but
get to
there
all
is
the
a
things that
time.
you want to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. We love our vendors. We have a ton of vendors, and I think that we really do. I didn't understand this. Sometimes you see things when you're attending a convention and it never crosses your mind
Mm,
what's going on behind the scenes. Like what is making this thing tick or happen. And it should be that way. Like you should be able to go and just soak it up and take it in. And I did for a number of years. But when I got into the backside and I realized how dependent we really are on our vendors, to run this convention because the support of our vendors, buying their booths in the vendor hall and the things that they do really makes it possible. So we do have a lot of great vendors. We don't typically promote them ourselves individually because we want to, give honor to all of them.
Yeah.
But they do have an opportunity with us to advertise. You'll see that we do send out emails, or, we have our banner that you'll see on our website. We'll have advertising opportunities in our program. So those vendors who choose to advertise with us, they do. And so they're highlighted there. We do have some really great speakers coming this year. The speakers that we have had over the last several years, it's been my goal to kind of, expand what we're doing so that we're kind of including more of our interests as homeschooling families, like a lifestyle. So balancing with how do you homeschool, like the basics, which, we have found people always need, but there are so many outlets. People can Google any just about thing and follow a million speakers, and they're all going to tell you how to get started doing something, right?
Right.
So we decided that there was a juncture where it wasn't just about feeding the need for how do you get started homeschooling, or, how do you teach math. There was also the need for, of course, encouragement, which has always been there. But I think that we look at how we kind of disciple our families and nurture our families a little bit more. And we've brought in speakers that kind of give us that whole, mentality. After the pandemic, this was another turn of events. A lot of families really became more interested in sustainability and, how they could, provide for their families by gardening or doing different things. So you will see that over the last couple of years, we've added some of those speakers who've become huge. So Joel Salatin, the lunatic farmer, is one of our keynotes this year. And it's hysterical to me, the response, because he's not talking about homeschooling at all, but he is talking about living your life together with your family and how you have that sustainability. And so people are super excited about him. Jenny Urich of 1,000 Hours Outside will be speaking again as a keynote. And then we have Nick Adams with Flag. He's written a curriculum for that's a very palatable, manageable curriculum for elementary age students, explaining the education and Declaration of Independence, Constitution, Declaration of Independence, and made it. He's got a great curriculum. It's beautiful. He's going to be speaking on Thursday night. And then Saturday night, we actually have a new general session called Look Up. And that's with Levi Lesko, author of Last Supper on the Moon and Marvel at the Moon, which is a devotional for children. But he's a little bit of a space nerd, needless to say. But so he's got very interesting topics. But he has dealt with the loss of a child, and he appreciated homeschooling and the moments he had with her before they lost her. He also deals with how you handle anxiety and stress, because he's experienced those things, in his life. So he's a super guy, and he'll be joining us this year. So
I think the hardest part about convention for me is, how can I not do everything?
I know.
Yeah.
So, and especially when you're working the convention or your leadership some way, you're like, I want to go to everything, but I have a booth to be at.
Yeah. And for years now, we have sold our audio sets, which people do purchase. It is pretty impossible to attend everything because some of it's happening all at the same time. But those have been great. I go back and listen to those because since I started volunteering and serving, convention has never been quite the same for me. So I don't get to go listen to as much as I would like to.
Right.
Yeah. Will you get to go to some of them? Will you get a chance to hear?
I do. I always get the opportunity to introduce the keynote speakers. And so I typically get to hear all of those sessions. But beyond that, now I actually wear two hats. I am the chairman of the board, but in 2019, I became the director of events. And that took on a different, so literally at the hotel, if there's a commode that needs fixed or something else, I'm the person
Yikes.
having to contact all of those people.
I'll send you an email.
Yeah, thank you.
We're 711.
Yes, the no toilet paper, that one's a great one. So I do a lot of the logistics now on the hotel side, so I don't get to do as much as I did even just as the chairman, of the board. I got to do a little bit more, but it's good. I love providing it for everyone else. So
we need to get you a volunteer coordinator of toilet paper on it.
There you go.
We love that you're doing all of those things, and that lineup is eclectic. It's very soul filled, but it's also filled from different perspectives. And
it's so important because you're representing the entire state, Suzanne.
Yeah.
And you've done such a good job in this lineup of honoring the eclectic nature of the homeschool community. As Brenda, in 40 years ago, wow, it's a different scene now, isn't it? Than what's I remember a day where it was like, well, are you doing a Becca? And that was the main curriculum everybody knew about. And
that was it. Yeah. Bob Jones.
Did you get approved for Bob Jones?
Yeah.
And here we are now. And my oldest is 31 this next week, which is really weird. And I don't know half the curriculum I'm hearing about now because there's so much I can't even understand it all. I don't know how Kathy is reviewing all this stuff.
Yeah. Keeping up with all the changes is fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a burning question since you mentioned your curriculum and everyone goes to the events to browse those vendor fairs. Yeah. The new PEP scholarship. How does that play into things for FPEA?
Well, so FPEA is working to become a provider for the PEP scholarship, and so the hope is that you can purchase your curriculum, as an annual subscription through PEP, and that eventually we're going to be on board to do our events. That are educational events that you could get reimbursed for those as well. So we're working on that. Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. I think a lot of parents are going to be excited about that.
Yes, I agree.
It'll apply for UA as well.
Yes.
Say that again.
It'll apply for UA as well.
Oh, yes. Right. Yes. Yeah. Great catch. That's very important.
UA mom.
Yes. UA mom. That's great. I don't have any other questions. We have blown through all of the questions that I had in like a record time too.
I have a few actually.
Go ahead.
We're on the list, but I don't think we got to. For those of us that are longer in the tooth and have been around with the FPEA for a while, are there district reps anymore?
Well, when I started, it was a district director. And we had those districts separated across the state. I think there may have been 13 districts. I don't remember exactly. And the way that functionally worked was you had to if you were a district director, you served on the board. And there had been, you ended up with people that didn't really know each other serving on the board. And I think that lent itself to some interesting experiences along the way. So we rewrote our bylaws in 2016, I think it was. And that was when it changed the name from district directors to regional representatives. And so now we have regional representatives and we have regions all over the state, same as we did with district directors. But the people who want to serve, they apply, they send in their application, and they serve for a couple of years. If they're interested in serving on the board, one of the requirements is that they serve there for a couple of years first and get a feel for what that means, to serve with FPEA. So the regional representatives function a little differently also because district directors, this was my experience anyway, when I started, there were a ton of homeschool support groups that we would go to and have kickoffs at the beginning of their school year or in the summer. And I was going to those things like a banshee. I mean, it was like wild during the summer. It was one after the other. I think not as many groups necessarily do that same type of a kickoff anymore. So, I think we have a lot more groups that are more organic and meet up in different ways and do different activities together and don't really fall under that homeschool support group type, of structure. Yeah. So we don't see quite as many of those. Now, some people in regions will have like conferences. So you may not end up seeing the regional representative there if they haven't really connected with as many of their local groups that are organic. So my suggestion is for the organic groups, I think it's phenomenal that you have groups that are just field trip groups or just play dates, picnic, meetup groups. And I think that those are amazing. We have a lot of emphasis over the last few years on how important it is to have your kids outside and be doing those things. And so I think that, we've got a little bit of everything. So my encouragement is this: if you are involved in leading in any of that, would be to connect with FPEA and find out who your regional representative is. And then you can have them come and speak and just fill people in and educate them on what it is, what we do, what FPEA does. If there's not a regional representative in the area, one of the board members will always fill in and do that, or we have a regional representative nearby that will. And then the other thing, and I didn't really promote this yet, but the other thing that is always my favorite first thing outside of the exhibit hall was the leadership. It was called Leaders Forum to begin with. We call it Leadership Summit now. It was my favorite thing because even when I wasn't serving in leadership, somebody told me, oh, you don't have to be in leadership in your group to go. You can go if you feel like you're going to be interested in being a leader, or if you, feel like you just need some extra encouragement because you lead at your church or whatever. So that gave me the freedom to go before I was ever actually serving in any capacity. And that was my favorite thing, because even when sometimes you're not seeing yourself in a real official capacity as a leader, if you're a leader at heart, that's who you are. And it speaks to you to hear those talks that are there, because they're specifically ordained for people who have the heart of a leader, who want to bring others along. And I realized very quickly that even if I wasn't serving other people's children, I wanted to help equip my own children to be leaders as well, because that's what my heart was. So I'm a leader in my home. So, I think a lot of people now don't really understand necessarily that it's for anybody who has that heart of a leader. And I encourage people to participate in that. It's too late now to sign up for it because we've gotten past our date. But even in future years, or as you all are talking to people, or as they're listening here, to know that it's a super refreshing opportunity.
Absolutely. I always enjoy that a lot.
Yeah.
And my last question is, are the order ahead family meals posted anywhere?
Oh, not this year, but I'll tell you why. So this was not by our design. It was by hotel decision. So we did the Get and Go meals. Actually, we started those a number of years ago at Gaylord Palms because the families would be schlepping food back and forth between Publix and everything to make it affordable. At that time, Gaylord Palms only had kind of your sit down, opportunities where it was a little bit more expensive to feed your family and such. Right. So they were the ones that designed those meals for us, got us started on them, and we just kind of kept it rolling over the years because it worked as a viable option. When we came back to Gaylord Palms this year, they had so many renovations that they've opened up this large market place that you can get all kinds of things, whether it's pizza, sandwiches, hot food, cold food. And they really felt like that was the best budget point for families, because the meals that they would create for what we call Get and Go meals would come out at a higher cost.
Okay.
So they were like, we don't think it's a good idea. So no. So we were like, okay. So that's kind of where we landed with that. Like I said, not by our design, but by their decision-making process. And
interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I wanted to ask, since it's so close to convention, 10 days away, is it too late for people to register? And if they do, let them know about parking.
Okay, yeah. So we actually, our deadline to register was May 1st. And so it's past the deadline to register early registration. But what we do have is what we're calling a fast pass. You can go online and you can fill out all of the paperwork for registration so that when you get there and you're standing in line, you don't have to stand and wait for all of that to be done.
Gotcha.
Then you can just go and tell them this is my name and they'll print the badges for you. Or if you don't have a chance to do that ahead of time, you can register on site. And since we were at Gaylord Palms before, parking, they built a parking garage. So they have more parking at Gaylord Palms. We don't have shuttles from any parking lots like we have when we've been at Rose and Shingle Creek. So people can park on site and should be able to get in pretty easily.
That's
really
great.
Cool. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh, now I'm excited to see all the renovations.
Yeah.
They've made some beautiful renovations. They have.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I
Any other
think you
questions?
should keep pushing for the family dinner options, because there was this great open area people could sit in together and get to know each other. And there are so many people at the convention. I'm a little concerned about waiting in line in these new spaces that they have, but I'm sure we'll learn from this year what to do next year, both the hotel and FPEA.
Yeah, and of course we will have our food court that we normally have on the convention side. We will have the food court.
That's great.
Good.
That's helpful. Yeah, that's especially helpful for vendors.
Sorry, we have a parent with a question. Do you have to pay for parking?
Parking is paid for. Yes, there is a convention rate that I just can't remember off the top of my head right now, but you can look on our website and find out all the information about parking.
Is it included in the registration, or is it separate from the registration?
It is separate from the registration.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike Harvey's on. He says, we'll see you all there. Yay.
Awesome. Yay.
That's awesome. Any other questions? All right. The crickets have spoken.
Is there a hashtag for the convention this year for people
we always do a hashtag for FPEA 2024.
Okay.
FPEA 2024 and FPEA convention. Yeah, we do both.
Cool.
Yeah.
What is your primary social media of choice? Do you prefer X or Instagram or Facebook?
I probably spend more time on Instagram and then Facebook.
Okay.
That's where I normally would ride. Cool. Yeah. So
I saw a bunch of kids last year running around with microphones and videos. They're probably working on their YouTube or TikTok.
So are your children going to be involved in helping this year?
Always. They are always there. My best team is my family. So yes, they're always there serving and will continue to do so until they are not able to because of, whatever kind of conflicts they may have. But yeah, we're excited about that.
Well, tell us what Ethan is doing in leadership.
I'm sorry?
Tell me what your son is doing in leadership right now.
Oh, right now he's actually outside of convention. He serves in our church and does leadership in the youth ministry. He has been working in his college years towards studying for ministry. And so he's still working on that. We'll be graduating next year. And then at the convention, he helps a lot with just everything. He's probably more my right-hand person that's on my, if I call you, answer the phone for this. But at our teen leadership summit, he speaks. This year, he's doing a really good talk actually this year about the stories that you live in or the stories that you live out. And that, he's talking to them about the leadership and kind of how they create their own story. And so I think that it's going to be great. And then Natalie Grace, my youngest, she will be serving all over the convention hall and everywhere.
That's awesome.
That's one of the great benefits of homeschooling is the relationship that parents end up having with their children through the
Mhm.
years. So I
Yeah.
It's
think
my
that's
favorite part.
Yeah, our kids are roaring to go with us too, everywhere we go.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we want to come, we want to come. I'm like, it's going to be boring. We're talking about lobbying and legislation and answering questions, but hey, they're there with us and they love it.
And they're
That's
learning
right.
a lot.
Yeah.
They learn.
Mhm.
And if I can take one more moment before I know we're
Yeah.
probably ready to wrap up here. But speaking of stories, FPA started a podcast a number of years ago. And during the COVID years, we kind of slowed down with that and decided it was time to relaunch our podcast under a new name and a new premise. The new name of it is Not by the Book. You'll see that hitting the airwaves pretty soon.
Cool.
But Not by the Book is an opportunity for us to take some of the people that we know, for something that they're famous for and talk to them a little bit more about how their story developed and how they got to be who they are. Some of the stories I've already had an opportunity to record are just really neat stories. Some of them are unexpected, but everybody that we talk to at some juncture has stepped outside of that proverbial box that none of us like
Yeah.
to live in, or they've
Yeah.
taken the rule book and ripped out the page, or they've written a
Yeah.
new chapter, to make it work. They're all people who are innovators and thinkers and are doing something great, and hoping Brenda will be joining us soon on one of those podcasts to talk about their story, because they definitely had to write some new chapters there. So that is our new podcast, and I'm super excited about that. So
That sounds great.
That's very cool. Very cool. Glad to hear that. We do have one more question that came in.
okay,
Oh yeah, somebody actually said we will be there for convention and graduation. There's a graduation. We didn't mention that at all.
it's an amazing graduation.
Yeah. And can't wait to see you. And then somebody asked the question, starting my daughter in kindergarten this year,
Mm.
is one day enough to look through all the vendors?
Well, my take on that is no,
How
but
fast
that's
do you
just
go?
me being honest. There are people who can come, and they will make a beeline for all of it and try to knock it all out for what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you only plan on one day, once you get into it, you're just kind of drawn in and want to spend a little bit more time.
Yeah.
But we do have people that definitely come for one day. They drive in to
They're on
do
a
that.
mission, though. They gotta
They're
be
on a
on a
mission.
mission.
They got to
There's
do
no
it.
way. Yeah, man.
They're doing it.
My tip for them would be to go to the Mentoring Moms booth and say, hey, I've got a
Mhm.
kindergartner. Which one should I go to? And those ladies will
Yeah.
circle the booths. That'll be the higher priorities for you.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a great idea.
Mhm.
Well, we are running short on time, or we're not short on time. We've hit the mark. We've hit the mark. This has been a fantastic interview, and we want to thank you, Suzanne, for being with us. We're really excited about the convention.
Thank you for having me here. It was great.
Absolutely. And we thank you for being one of our top sponsors. We're so excited
Yes.
to have you with us in all of this.
Yes.
Are there any other questions or last minute comments or any things anybody want to add in the comment section or on the podcast? Speak now or forever hold your pizza.
Now or forever.
All right. Well, if there's nothing else, we will roll out from here. I'll get our thank you for coming
Thank you.
stream up. And just want a quick reminder that the FPEA convention is May 23rd through 25th. They are still looking for volunteers to help out with things here and there. And if you have the chance to do so, that would be great. If nothing else, we hope everybody enjoys themselves, and thank everybody who was on the podcast today for being with us. And thank you, FPEA, for being one of our top sponsors throughout the year. Without anything else, I'll bid you all a happy Monday, and thank you for being with us.